They told you your prime was in your 20s. They told you that once the gray shows up, the world stops noticing. They told you attraction fades, that youth is everything, that once your reflection starts changing, your worth begins to disappear. They were wrong, because real attraction was never about youth. It was never about smooth skin or quick words or how many eyes turned your way. Real attraction is energy, the kind that can't be faked, rushed, or filtered. It's the calm confidence that comes from a man who's walked through storms and doesn't need to prove that he survived them. There's a moment in every man's life when he looks in the mirror and wonders if the world still sees him. When the noise fades, when the crowds thin, when his younger fire feels dimmer than it used to. But that's the moment everything changes. Not because he's fading, but because he's refining. What used to be hunger turns into calm. What used to be ambition turns into purpose. And what used to be a need for validation transforms into quiet self-respect. See, most men spend their youth chasing approval, chasing women, chasing recognition. They try to build their worth through motion, noise, and performance. But with time, something shifts. The older man stops chasing and starts becoming. He realizes that his power was never in pursuit but in presence, that his value doesn't come from being noticed but from being felt. The truth is, the world has been lying to you. It made you believe that age takes something from you. But what if age doesn't take? What if it gives? What if every scar, every heartbreak, every lesson carved a deeper form of magnetism into you? The kind that doesn't demand attention but commands it. The kind that isn't loud, but impossible to ignore. There's a gravity that comes with time, a certain steadiness that no young man can imitate. You no longer walk into a room trying to be seen. You walk in knowing you belong there. You've earned that quiet power, that unspoken authority that doesn't need applause. Because when you fought, failed, rebuilt, and stood tall without anyone cheering for you, your very presence becomes magnetic. People feel it before they even understand it. The stillness, the strength, the subtle mastery of self that only time can forge. You may not think of yourself as attractive anymore, but others do. Not because of how you look, but because of what you carry. You carry wisdom in your posture, peace in your eyes, depth in your silence. You carry the story of a man who has lived and survived and still stands with calm certainty. That is the new definition of masculine beauty. You are not losing your edge, you're sharpening it. You are not past your prime, you are becoming it. Because your prime isn't a number, it's a state of being. The point where you finally understand that peace is stronger than excitement and stillness louder than noise. So take a breath, lean back, let the world rush by if it must. You've already done your running. Now, your presence alone is enough to shift the room. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. That's power. And if you've ever felt that quiet transformation, the shift from chasing to commanding, from seeking to being, then this message is for you. Because you're not just aging, you're awakening. This is your reminder that time doesn't weaken the masculine spirit, it refines it. And if you believe that true power grows with time, stay with me and join our brotherhood at True Stoic Way. Your next chapter begins here. There was a time when confidence was loud, when you thought power meant walking faster, talking louder, and filling every silence with proof that you mattered. You believed being seen meant being noticed, being respected meant being the center of attention. That's what the world teaches young men, that the one who speaks the most shines the brightest. But true confidence is quieter than that. It doesn't shout, it radiates. It doesn't demand space. It naturally creates it. When a man matures, when he has fallen and risen enough times to know what really matters, something inside him shifts. The noise fades. The need to prove himself dissolves. What's left behind isn't emptiness, it's presence. And that presence, that quiet, grounded calm, is the new charisma. Watch an older man walk into a room. He doesn't rush. He doesn't perform. He doesn't need to convince anyone that he belongs there. He simply does. He doesn't lead with words, but with energy. People turn their heads not because he's trying to stand out, but because he's mastered the rare art of being at ease with himself. That's the paradox of calm power. It doesn't announce itself, yet it commands attention. In the corporate world, you see it all the time. A young manager storms into meetings, desperate to prove competence. His sentences are fast, his tone sharp, his gestures restless. He fills the air with movement, but not meaning. Then an older executive walks in. He says little, yet every eye turns. He pauses before speaking, measures his tone, and when he finally does, the room falls silent. Because everyone feels it. This is a man who doesn't chase approval. He embodies it. It's the same outside the boardroom. The calm father who disciplines his children not through shouting, but through quiet authority. The man at the bar who doesn't compete for attention, yet somehow becomes the center of gravity in every conversation. The husband who listens before speaking, who doesn't react to chaos but responds with composure. That's the kind of man whose presence anchors others. That's the man people remember long after he's gone. Because calmness is not passivity, it's control. It's the mastery of one's own reactions, the rare ability to remain unmoved by noise, temptation, or provocation. A young man might think intensity is attractive, but intensity burns fast. Calmness endures. The Stoics knew this. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. You conquer yourself not by winning arguments or outshining others, but by mastering your emotions, by refusing to be ruled by impulse. The calm man doesn't suppress emotion, he governs it. He doesn't run from conflict, he simply doesn't let it run through him. That's what makes him magnetic. People sense stability in his energy, a grounded strength that feels safe, reliable, unshakable. In a world addicted to reaction, the man who pauses becomes rare. In a culture of noise, the man who listens becomes unforgettable. And this calmness, it wasn't given to you. You earned it. Through heartbreak, through failure, through long nights where you had no one to lean on but yourself. Every time life tested you, you built another layer of stillness. Every loss refined your patience. Every challenge polished your restraint. Now you carry that discipline like invisible armor. When others panic, you breathe. When others rush, you stay centered. When others crumble, you stand still. Not because you're cold, but because you've learned that peace is your greatest form of power. Think about it. The loudest man in the room is rarely the most respected. The calmest one, however, always commands the most quiet admiration. Calmness makes people curious. It draws them in. They wonder what you know, what you've seen, what gives you that composure that no chaos can disturb. And here's the truth. Your calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's the presence of mastery. It's the awareness that every reaction is a choice. And you no longer waste that choice on things beneath your peace. That's what separates a man who seeks control from the man who is in control. When you walk into a room now, you no longer compete for attention. You shift the atmosphere. You don't need validation. You embody it. You don't need applause. Your silence already speaks louder than words. And that's what makes people respect you without even understanding why. They feel it. The weight of your presence. The steadiness of your energy. The composure that says, I've seen worse and I'm still here. That's charisma. Not the kind that fades with youth, but the kind that deepens with time. Because the truth is, calmness is timeless. Styles change. Trends die. Faces age. But presence, real, grounded presence, never loses its power. So when others rush to speak, you pause. When others fight for attention, you let the moment come to you. And when the world tests your patience, you simply smile, because you already know the outcome. You'll stay grounded, you'll stay composed, you'll stay unmoved. And that, my friend, is what separates a boy from a man. If you felt this shift within yourself, you're not alone. This is the path of the Stoic man. You've outgrown the need to be impressive. You've stopped mistaking volume for value. Now you understand that stillness, not noise, is the ultimate proof of strength. Calmness has become your language, your armor, and your signature. And once you've tasted that peace, there's no going back. Because in a world full of men trying to be heard, the one who speaks with calm certainty will always be the one remembered. There's a certain kind of energy that can't be taught. It's not found in charm schools or leadership seminars. It's not about charisma or social skill. It's something deeper, quieter, and infinitely more magnetic. It's the aura of stillness, the invisible force that surrounds a man who has walked through fire and no longer needs to prove that he survived. You can feel it before he even speaks. The room changes slightly when he enters, not because he demands attention, but because he carries an atmosphere that commands it. His movements are slow, deliberate. His eyes no longer dart around seeking validation. They rest where they are, anchored and calm. His voice doesn't tremble with the pressure to impress. It flows with composure, like a river that's learned its course. This is the energy of a man who's lived, a man who's lost, rebuilt, and learned that storms are not meant to be feared. They are meant to be mastered. Every heartbreak, every failure, every long night he thought he wouldn't make it through, all of it shaped his energy into something rare and magnetic. When you're young, your energy is fire. It burns fast and bright. You chase everything: success, affection, attention, and you confuse motion with meaning. You mistake noise for power. But over time, that fire refines itself. It stops flaring outward and begins to glow inward. It becomes heat, not flame. Depth, not display. That's when you move from the spark of youth to the gravity of maturity. And that gravity, it pulls people in without effort. It's what makes a room fall silent when you speak softly. It's what makes others relax around you, even if they don't know why. Because your stillness tells a story. It says, "I've faced chaos, and I didn't lose myself." It says, "You can trust me, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm present." This aura isn't born overnight. It's sculpted slowly by time and pain. You can't fake it. You can't perform it. You can only become it. Because stillness isn't something you practice. It's something you earn. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength," he was describing this exact energy. True power doesn't explode. It expands quietly. The Stoic man doesn't react to every insult, every test, every uncertainty. He understands that life will always try to pull him off balance, but he also knows that balance isn't given, it's chosen. You can see that choice in his posture, in his tone, in his gaze. His eyes don't carry the restless hunger of a man still chasing approval. They hold a deeper kind of awareness, the gaze of someone who's seen the world break promises and still chose to remain whole. People often talk about good vibes, but this is something different. This is presence. It's not just emotional control, it's energetic command. The older man's stillness has gravity because it's born from truth. He no longer hides from who he is. There are no masks left to maintain, no roles left to play. The energy you feel from him is authenticity. Raw, disciplined, unshakable authenticity. And that's why others are drawn to it. A woman feels it instantly. She may not be able to explain it, but she senses that calm like warmth from a fire. It's not excitement, it's safety. It's not dominance, it's direction. That steadiness becomes a sanctuary in a chaotic world. Because in a society built on noise and endless motion, stillness feels like a rare luxury, and you become the embodiment of it. The aura of stillness is not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally untouchable. It's knowing that you can feel deeply and still remain centered. It's realizing that self-control isn't repression. It's liberation. You no longer chase reactions, you create resonance. You don't seek control over others, you master control over yourself. And paradoxically, that's when the world begins to move in rhythm with you. Stillness is strength in its purest form. It's the quiet in the middle of chaos, the eye of the storm, the silence that commands more respect than shouting ever could. People may not understand it, but they feel it. And once they do, they can't forget it. Pause. Breathe. This is your reminder that peace itself is power. Because peace is not passive. It's not retreat. It's the highest expression of discipline. It's standing in a world that constantly tries to provoke you and refusing to give away your composure. The calm man doesn't avoid the world. He simply moves through it on his own terms. That's the aura of stillness, an invisible crown that can't be seen but is always felt. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about the man who no longer flinches when life tests him, who no longer crumbles when things fall apart. When you reach that point, your energy changes everything around you. Conversations slow, eyes linger. Respect happens naturally, because people aren't responding to your words, they're responding to your energy. And that energy, that deep and unshakable stillness, is what separates men who live in reaction from men who live in mastery. The younger man tries to conquer the world. The older man learns to conquer himself. And once he does, he becomes unstoppable. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul, but for a man who's lived, they are more than that. They're not just windows, they're archives. They hold the unspoken record of everything you've endured. Every scar, every loss, every lesson that time refused to teach gently. Every scar you've endured now lives behind your eyes. When you were young, your eyes were fire. Restless, eager, full of desire to prove something to the world. You looked outward, searching for meaning, searching for recognition. You wanted to be seen. But with time, with pain, with reflection, that fire didn't die. It transformed. It turned from a restless flame into a deep glow, a quiet light that doesn't burn, but warms. Now when people look into your eyes, they don't see excitement, they see experience. They see a man who has walked through storms and come out wiser, calmer, and infinitely more grounded. Your eyes tell the truth before your words ever do. They say, I've seen darkness, but I didn't become it. They say, I've been broken, but I built myself again, stronger, quieter, truer. That's what separates you from the man you once were. Youthful charm fades, but the weight of understanding never does. When you look at someone now, you don't just see them, you read them. You catch the hesitation between their words, the tension behind their smile, the quiet pain in their tone. You've developed a kind of perception that can't be learned from books, only from life. Experience sharpened your awareness not to judge but to understand. And that understanding and that deep wordless recognition is what makes your gaze magnetic. Because in a world obsessed with being seen, you've become the man who sees, not superficially, but soulfully. You don't rush to interpret. You observe. You listen. You understand. That's the kind of gaze that makes people feel safe. It's what women feel when they look into your eyes. The steady rhythm of a man who's anchored. It's not about dominance. It's about depth. Your calm gaze tells her, I don't need to impress you. I just need to be honest. It's not performative confidence, and it's presence. And that presence is irresistible. When a woman looks into your eyes now, her heartbeat slows down because she feels something she rarely encounters. A man who's not trying to win her, but simply to see her. She feels that your attention isn't a spotlight, but a sanctuary. Behind your gaze, there's no hunger to conquer, no insecurity to hide, just quiet awareness. The kind of awareness that says, you can show up as you are. I've already seen the world. Nothing surprises me anymore. That's what makes your eyes magnetic, not because they seek, but because they understand. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That truth lives in your gaze now, because your eyes no longer react to everything they see. They've learned restraint. They've learned that most things don't deserve a reaction, only observation. That's Stoic vision in its purest form. You see without attachment, you watch without judgment. You feel deeply, but you're not pulled by emotion. You've learned the art of perceiving the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And because of that, your eyes project strength, not the aggressive kind that seeks to dominate, but the kind that says, I am unshaken. People sense this even if they can't explain it. Strangers make longer eye contact with you now. Men nod when you pass by. Women hold your gaze longer than they intend to. Because your eyes no longer beg to be noticed, they command respect through stillness. That's what happens when you stop running from yourself. The tension leaves your eyes, and in its place appears clarity. Pure, grounded, unfiltered clarity. You no longer see the world as a battlefield. You see it as a mirror, and every glance you give reflects your inner mastery. Your gaze becomes your language. It says what words never could. I've been hurt, but I've healed. I've lost, but I've learned. I no longer chase. I attract through stillness. You might not realize it, but people feel this energy in you. They feel it in the pauses when you speak, in the steadiness of your expression, in the way your eyes linger just long enough to make someone feel seen. You've turned silence into a form of communication. You don't need to fill the air with clever lines. Your eyes already do the talking. And that's why they can't look away. Because your eyes tell a story that's both powerful and peaceful. The story of a man who's seen life from every angle, its chaos, its beauty, its heartbreak, and still chose to remain calm. That's rare. That's magnetic. That's what makes people trust you without knowing why. You no longer seek validation through someone else's gaze. You've learned that how people see you says more about them than it ever did about you. That realization freed you. Now, when someone looks at you, they don't just see a man. They feel a presence, a life fully lived, a spirit that's been tested and refined. So don't hide your gaze. Don't lower it out of habit or modesty. Look up. Let people see the history behind your calm, the pain, the patience, the peace. Because those aren't signs of age. They're signs of evolution. Your eyes are not losing their spark. They're gaining depth. And depth, real, lived depth, is the rarest beauty of all. If you feel that silent power growing behind your eyes, don't hide it. Embrace it. That's the true Stoic way. Because the man who learns to see himself clearly will forever see the world differently. Your voice tells the world who you are before your words ever do. It carries your story, your scars, your strength. When you were younger, you probably thought power lived in volume. That to be heard, you had to be louder than everyone else. You believed that commanding a room meant raising your tone, asserting dominance, filling every second with sound. But life, with all its trials and humiliations, teaches you something different. That true authority doesn't shout, it resonates. Your voice doesn't demand attention, it commands it. And it does so not by force but by depth. There's a difference between noise and presence. Loudness is easy. Anyone can raise their voice. But depth? Depth comes from understanding. It comes from stillness, from having seen enough of life that you no longer need to rush your words. The man who has lived doesn't speak to impress. He speaks to express truth. Every syllable carries weight because it comes from a place of clarity, not chaos. Listen to a young man trying to make his point. His words come fast, his tone sharp, his emotions spilling over his sentences. He's still trying to prove something, to be taken seriously. Then listen to an older man, a stoic man. His voice is slower, deliberate, unhurried. He doesn't fear silence. He uses it. Every pause is intentional, every word measured. And that restraint makes his presence magnetic. A stoic leader speaks less but means more. That's what the world feels when you speak now. You don't rush to fill space. You let your words breathe. You understand that silence is not empty. It's powerful. You know that sometimes the pause between your sentences says more than a dozen explanations. Because your calmness signals control. It tells people, I am not here to perform. I am here to be real. Your voice has changed with time, not just in tone, but in truth. The years have carved depth into it. It's lower now, steadier, slower. It carries weight because it's been tested by disappointment, by heartbreak, by rebuilding yourself again and again. You don't need to force authority anymore. You are authority. And people feel that. When you speak now, people listen. Not because your voice is loud, but because it's grounded. There's a quiet assurance in it. The sound of someone who no longer needs external validation. A man who knows who he is doesn't need to compete for the air in the room. His tone alone shifts the atmosphere. His presence alone demands attention without asking for it. In the modern world where everyone's talking at once, online, in meetings, in conversations, the man who speaks slowly, with intention, becomes a rarity. People lean in. They sense something different about him. They can't name it, but they feel it. Safety. Because a calm voice feels like stability in a world of chaos. It tells people, everything is under control. and that's irresistible. Women especially respond to this energy. It's not dominance they're drawn to, it's direction. It's not volume they trust, it's composure. When you speak with steady confidence, when your tone says, "I've seen worse, and I'm still standing," something shifts. Your words become a place they can rest in. And this isn't just about tone. It's about energy. Your voice reflects your inner world. If your mind is chaotic, your words stumble. If your emotions are unstable, your tone betrays you. But when your spirit is calm, when you've learned to make peace with who you are, your voice aligns with that truth. It becomes balanced, unshakable, grounded. That's what Stoicism sounds like. Not emotionless, but emotionally mastered. When Marcus Aurelius led Rome, he didn't roar from the podium. His strength wasn't in how much he said, but in how deeply he meant every word. That's why his writings, centuries later, still command respect. Because truth spoken calmly carries further than noise shouted desperately. So when you speak now, remember, your tone is your presence. You're not just communicating information, you're transmitting energy. The steadiness in your voice tells the world that you're not easily moved, that you've already conquered the hardest battlefield, your own mind. And when your voice carries that truth, people can feel it in their bones. The loudest man might get attention, but the calmest one earns respect. The loudest man fills the air, the calmest one grounds it. That's what you do now. You ground the room. Every word you speak carries the discipline of silence behind it. Every sentence is supported by restraint. You no longer speak to be liked. You speak because you have something to say. And that difference between wanting to be heard and needing to share truth is what separates ordinary men from Stoic men. Your voice has become your signature, a reflection of your inner composure. It no longer wavers for approval. It no longer bends to reaction. It simply exists, stable, certain, calm. When you talk, people sense that you've earned your peace. They can hear the years in your tone, not in fatigue, but in wisdom. You don't raise your voice to prove strength anymore. You lower it, and people still listen. Because they're not responding to your volume, they're responding to your certainty. And that is the power of presence. So the next time you speak, slow down. Feel the air between your words. Let your tone carry your truth. Because your voice now, as it is not something you need to fix. It's something you've earned. Every word you speak can ground a room. If you felt that, you're walking the Stoic path. Speak less, mean more, and let your calm voice remind the world what composure sounds like. Before you say a single word, your body has already introduced you. The way you walk, the way you stand, the way you hold stillness. These are the first languages people read. Your energy moves long before your voice does. And when a man matures, his body becomes more than just a vessel. It becomes a reflection of his discipline, his self-respect, and his presence. Every movement tells a story. Every gesture reveals what kind of man you are. The restless man fidgets. The insecure man shrinks. The angry man tenses. But the grounded man, he moves with purpose. Every step deliberate, every motion calm. He doesn't rush, he doesn't flinch, he doesn't perform. His composure speaks for him. That's why people notice the older man differently. He doesn't have to compete for attention, he commands it. Not with flash or aggression, but with awareness. Because there's something magnetic about a man who moves as though he's already seen the battlefield and has nothing left to prove. When you were young, your body was full of noise. You moved fast, chased hard, reached for everything at once. Attention, approval, ambition. Every motion was a question. Am I enough yet? But with time, your body learned the answer. You stopped chasing. You started carrying yourself like a man who already knows he's enough. Now your movements are slower, stronger, more intentional. Your walk becomes a meditation. Each step an act of self-assurance. Each breath a quiet declaration that you are at peace with who you've become. That's what true physical presence is. Not size, not aesthetics, but self-mastery. The Stoics believed in the unity of body, mind, and soul. To train one is to strengthen the others. When you honor your body through discipline, your mind follows with clarity. When you control your breath, your thoughts align. When you move with purpose, your spirit finds balance. That's why the way you carry yourself reveals so much. It's not vanity, it's awareness. Your posture tells the world if you respect yourself. A straight spine and steady gaze say, "I belong here." Relaxed shoulders show confidence, not arrogance. Still hands show control, not fear. The calm man doesn't need to flex to prove strength. His restraint is strength, and that restraint makes people feel something. They can't describe it, but they sense it. The way you take a seat without haste, the way you stand without tension, the way you turn your head when someone speaks. These subtle things speak louder than words. Because when a man is in control of his body, it means he's in control of himself. You no longer chase attention. You command it by being centered. Stand tall, brother. This is how the world learns what calm power looks like. When your body aligns with your mind, every movement becomes art, silent, deliberate, grounded. You don't need to show dominance, your stillness already radiates it. You don't need to occupy space aggressively, you own space quietly. Think of a lion. It doesn't need to roar constantly to prove its power. It walks slowly, confidently, with an ease that makes every creature in its path move aside. That's what it means to embody presence, not through tension, but through balance. You train your body not to look young but to stay sharp, not to impress but to respect yourself. You move, you lift, you stretch, not for vanity, but for clarity. Because physical strength without inner discipline is hollow. But when body and mind are aligned, your presence becomes unshakable. The Stoics practiced daily awareness of the body. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to live in harmony with nature, to accept both effort and rest, to keep the body ready for duty but free from vanity. Your workouts, your nutrition, your sleep, they're not just habits now. They're rituals of self-respect. Each push-up, each breath, each step is an act of gratitude for the vessel that carries you, and people notice. A woman won't always understand why she finds you magnetic, but she feels it. The steadiness in your step, the ease in your movement, the quiet rhythm of a man who's not at war with himself. Men respect it too because they can sense that your strength isn't loud, it's earned. Your body language is truth made visible. If your mind is chaotic, your posture betrays it. If your spirit is at peace, your stillness radiates it. The older you get, the more your energy speaks louder than your appearance. You become less about how you look and more about what your presence communicates. And here's the secret. People don't remember the details of your face. They remember how they felt in your presence. If you carry tension, they'll feel uneasy. If you carry calm, they'll feel safe. That's real attraction, not desire for your body, but admiration for your discipline. When you walk into a room now, you're not seeking to dominate. You're simply declaring, without words, that you are grounded. You move like a man whose worth is not negotiable. Your gestures are slow, your expression composed, your aura steady. That's the power of embodiment. So stand tall, move slowly, breathe deeply. Let your actions mirror your inner mastery. Because the way you carry yourself is not just posture, it's philosophy. It's the visible echo of everything you've overcome. Your walk tells the story of a man who once chased and now attracts, who once performed and now is. Your body no longer rushes for approval. It rests in confidence. It radiates calm power. And that, brother, is what true masculinity looks like. Not perfection, but presence. Not display, but depth. Because when you master your movement, your body becomes what it was always meant to be. A living symbol of peace, discipline, and control. The physical form of the Stoic soul. In a world obsessed with talking, the man who listens becomes unforgettable. Everyone wants to be heard, to be right, to be noticed, but very few have mastered the rare art of listening. Real listening isn't passive. It's not just waiting for your turn to speak. It's active presence, an act of stillness, patience, and humility. When you were younger, you probably listened to respond. You waited for pauses in conversation so you could jump in and prove your point. You were eager to be understood, eager to be impressive. But as you grew, you began to see the deeper truth. Listening isn't about winning the moment. It's about understanding the person in front of you. That's what separates ordinary men from wise ones. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen twice as much as we speak." It wasn't just advice, it was a way of life. Because to the Stoics, listening was a discipline of the mind. It trained patience. It built empathy. It required you to control your ego, the part that constantly wants to interrupt, correct, or be right. The mature man knows that silence doesn't make him weak. It makes him powerful. When you truly listen, you communicate something louder than words ever could. You're safe here. Your silence no longer feels empty. It feels safe, because you're not listening to fix, to argue, or to impress. You're listening to understand, and that changes everything. Think about it. When someone truly listens to you, not just hearing the words but feeling the emotion beneath them, it's almost spiritual. You feel seen, not analyzed, understood, not judged. That's the kind of listening that disarms people. That's the kind of listening that turns tension into trust. Now imagine being that man. When you listen with patience, your very presence becomes grounding. People relax around you. They open up. They speak more honestly, not because you ask them to, but because your calm energy gives them permission. They sense that you're not waiting to interrupt. You're simply there, steady, attentive, and unhurried. That's the power of Stoic listening. Your silence becomes your strength. In that silence, people feel something they rarely experience: peace. And peace is magnetic. Women feel it instantly. It's why they tell you things they don't tell anyone else. It's why they feel comfortable in your presence, even when no words are exchanged. Because your silence doesn't push, it invites. You've learned that listening is not submission, it's control, it's self-mastery. It's knowing when to hold your tongue so your mind can work clearly. The man who listens carefully learns faster, decides wiser, and connects deeper. When you're quiet, you're not disengaged. You're discerning. You're reading tone, emotion, pauses, the language that hides between the lines. The world may see silence as weakness, but you know it's the highest form of strength. Because it takes discipline to stay still while others speak. It takes self-confidence to not need the last word. It takes emotional mastery to hold space for others without losing your center. And that's what makes you stand out. You no longer listen to reply. You listen to see. You listen to learn. You listen to connect. Every time you do, you build invisible bridges. Bridges made of respect and presence. People trust what they feel in your energy more than what they hear from your mouth. The older you get, the more you realize. Communication isn't about who talks more, but who understands better. Most men waste their power trying to be interesting. But the wise man, the Stoic man, becomes fascinating simply because he listens. Because true listening is empathy in motion. It's the stillness that allows truth to surface. And in this world, a world that shouts, your silence becomes sacred. You've probably noticed how people respond to your stillness now. They lower their voices, they slow their pace, they soften their words. That's not coincidence, that's resonance. You've stopped reacting, and because of that, your presence shapes the energy around you. That's emotional leadership, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that elevates. Listening also teaches you something precious. Not every opinion needs to be challenged, not every comment deserves a reply, and not every argument is worth your peace. You no longer need to correct everyone. You've learned that silence can teach louder than confrontation. When you choose not to react, you win twice. Once by preserving your peace, and again by maintaining your power. Because power kept quiet is power multiplied. Your calm doesn't come from indifference, it comes from clarity. You understand that your peace is more valuable than being right. And that's what people feel when they talk to you. You're not trying to dominate the conversation. You're anchoring it. Your presence makes others feel like time slows down. Your stillness gives them room to breathe. Your attention reminds them that being heard is healing. This is the rare gift of the Stoic man, to make others feel seen simply by being still. And in that stillness, connection happens, not through charm, but through authenticity. You don't need clever words. You don't need rehearsed empathy. You just need to be there. Because when you listen with intention, you communicate without speaking. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to understand you. That's why your presence stays with people long after you leave. It's not your advice they remember. It's your calm. It's not your voice they recall. It's your silence. In a world that shouts, your silence becomes sacred. Remember that, and stay grounded with us. Listening isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the quiet confidence of a man who no longer needs to prove his worth through words. The man who listens without ego is the man who commands the room, not because he dominates it, but because he centers it. And when you master the art of listening, you no longer chase connection, you create it. A man with a mission doesn't chase attention. He commands it, not because he's trying to, but because his direction speaks louder than his words ever could. Purpose is silent magnetism. It's what separates the man who drifts from the man who leads. It's the invisible compass that gives every step meaning, every challenge context, and every sacrifice value. When you were younger, you might have mistaken busyness for purpose. You chased every opportunity, every distraction, every temporary thrill that made you feel alive for a moment, but empty by nightfall. You mistook motion for meaning. But with age, with experience, pain, and reflection, you realized something profound. Direction matters more than speed. Purpose transforms age into advantage. Because when a man finds his why, he stops wasting energy on everything that doesn't align with it. His movements become sharper, his decisions simpler, and his presence more powerful. The fire inside him doesn't burn out with time. It burns cleaner, brighter, more focused. You can see this truth everywhere. Look at Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king. Surrounded by war, politics, betrayal, and endless distraction, he led not with noise, but with direction. He woke up each morning guided by principle, not emotion. He knew his purpose: to serve, to lead, to embody virtue in chaos. He wrote in his meditations, "At dawn, when you rise unwillingly, remember that you have been made by nature for the work of man." That's what purpose gives you. Clarity when the world is confusing, steadiness when everything else is shifting. And that same clarity, that same directional energy, is what people feel around you when you move with intent. Modern life is full of men who wander. They chase distractions disguised as goals, money, status, attention, yet feel more lost than ever. But the man with purpose? You can spot him instantly. He doesn't move like he's searching. He moves like he's building. His eyes aren't restless, they're focused. His posture isn't tense, it's grounded. His time isn't filled, it's invested. That kind of man radiates something women feel immediately: safety. Because directional energy is rare. It tells her this man knows who he is and where he's going. And if she steps into his world, she'll feel anchored, not lost. It's not about dominance, it's about direction. You see, attraction isn't just physical, it's existential. People are drawn to certainty. They feel magnetized by those who walk with conviction, who don't crumble at the first sign of difficulty. When a man has purpose, he becomes a source of gravity. Others orbit around him because his focus creates a sense of safety in their chaos. And that's why you can't fake purpose. It isn't about big speeches or declarations. It's about quiet consistency, the daily choices you make when no one's watching. Purpose shows up in your routines, your habits, your self-discipline. It's in the way you say no to distractions, in the way you protect your time like something sacred. A man without purpose seeks comfort. A man with purpose seeks growth. The first drifts through life, easily swayed by every new temptation. The second walks his path with patience, knowing that progress takes time, and that patience, that unhurried determination, becomes magnetic. You might not realize it, but people feel it when you walk into a room. They can sense whether you're wandering or leading. The man with purpose doesn't need to announce it. His energy announces it for him. His stillness is not lack of motion, it's precision. His calm isn't disinterest, it's focus. When you wake up knowing why you're here, your entire energy changes. Your voice deepens, your gaze sharpens. Even your presence feels heavier, not burdensome, but rooted. You stop moving for applause and start moving for alignment. And that's the difference between noise and legacy. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't mean conquering the world. It might mean becoming the kind of man your younger self needed. It might mean protecting your peace. It might mean mastering your craft, mentoring others, or simply living each day with integrity and calm. What matters isn't the size of your mission. It's the sincerity of it. Marcus Aurelius never sought fame. He sought discipline. And because of that, his words still echo centuries later. Purpose leaves a legacy not through noise, but through presence. Through the quiet, unwavering example of a man who walks his path even when no one's watching. When you find that, distractions lose their power, temptations fade, comparison disappears. You stop needing to chase attention because your purpose gives you peace. You stop seeking validation because your mission validates itself. You stop competing with other men because you finally understand. Your race was never against them. It was always against time. Purpose turns solitude into sanctuary. It turns struggle into fuel. It turns age into advantage. Because while others spend their youth chasing pleasure, you spend your maturity pursuing meaning. And meaning never fades. People may not understand the path you walk, but they will feel its impact. You'll become the quiet reminder that strength isn't in speed, but in direction. That wisdom isn't in words, but in actions. That confidence isn't in proving, but in being. So whatever your mission is, protect it. Guard it from distraction. Refine it through discipline. Let it shape how you move, how you speak, how you live. Because a man with purpose doesn't just age, he evolves. And if you've found your mission, protect it and share this message with a brother who's still searching. Because purpose isn't just what drives you, it's what defines you. It's not what you do, it's who you are. And when a man knows who he is, the world can't help but notice. Detachment isn't cold, it's composed. It's not about turning off your emotions, it's about mastering them. It's the quiet, centered strength of a man who no longer allows the chaos of the world to dictate the peace within him. When you were younger, you mistook intensity for connection. You thought love meant constant pursuit, endless communication, and emotional turbulence. You equated attachment with passion and confusion with depth. But the truth is, what you once called love was often just dependency disguised as devotion. You wanted to feel needed so badly that you forgot the power of being whole on your own. With time, pain, and reflection, that changed. You learned that the greatest power a man can ever hold is emotional discipline, the ability to feel deeply without losing balance, to care without clinging, to love without surrendering self-respect. Detachment isn't indifference, it's clarity. It's knowing that you cannot control how others feel, act, or stay, only how you respond. It's not a lack of care, it's the presence of control. Marcus Aurelius said it best: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That realization transforms everything, because once you truly understand it, you stop trying to bend the world to your emotions. You stop reacting to every shift in someone else's mood. You stop letting rejection define your worth. You stop chasing closure from people who were never meant to understand your depth. Instead, you return home, to yourself. The young man's heart burns fast. He wants to be chosen, validated, seen. He gives away his peace easily because he hasn't yet learned its value. But the older man, the Stoic man, guards his peace like sacred ground. He knows that not everyone deserves access to his energy. He doesn't seek to control, and he simply chooses what to allow. And that choice is power. Because emotional detachment isn't about closing your heart. It's about opening your eyes. It's about seeing things and people as they are, not as you wish them to be. It's walking away from chaos, not because you're weak, but because you've outgrown the need to be consumed by it. When you reach this level of stillness, your energy changes. You stop chasing, You stop begging. You stop over-explaining. You realize that silence often says more than arguments ever could. You no longer fight to be understood. You simply stand in your truth, calmly, quietly, unshaken. That's what real strength looks like. It's not the man who yells louder. It's the man who stays composed when others lose control. It's not the man who wins every argument. It's the man who no longer needs to. It's not the man who dominates others. It's the man who dominates himself. This is power through peace, because peace is the ultimate form of self-control. It's the weapon the world can't defend against. When others expect you to react and you don't, they lose their power over you. When they try to provoke you and you remain unmoved, they reveal their chaos, and you reveal your mastery. A detached man doesn't retreat from life. He participates fully, but selectively. He feels love, but doesn't beg for it. He faces conflict, but doesn't feed it. He experiences loss, but doesn't let it define him. His calm isn't apathy, it's awareness. It's the understanding that true connection doesn't require control, and true power doesn't require proof. You see it in how he moves, slow, certain, present. You see it in how he speaks, few words but all meaning. You see it in how he reacts. He doesn't. That's the paradox of maturity. The less you react, the more powerful you become. Because emotional volatility is weakness, and composure is strength. The world belongs to the man who cannot be shaken. Women feel this instantly. The man who is emotionally stable, who cannot be manipulated through guilt, who cannot be provoked into desperation. He stands out like fire in a world of smoke. His calm doesn't repel, it attracts. Because nothing is more magnetic than a man who wants nothing yet commands everything. This is what detachment gives you. Gravity. The kind of gravity that doesn't chase. It pulls without effort. It doesn't ask. It simply is. But don't mistake this for arrogance. True detachment is humble. It knows love is a choice, not a possession. It knows rejection isn't an insult, it's redirection. It knows loss isn't the end, it's evolution. You stop needing closure from others because you find it within. You stop expecting loyalty from the disloyal because you no longer base your peace on their consistency. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You simply withdraw your energy and protect your calm. And that's when everything shifts. People start respecting you differently. Opportunities start aligning naturally. You begin attracting what matches your stillness, not your struggle. Because the universe, like people, responds to your frequency. The calmer your energy, the clearer your direction. Detachment turns pain into perspective, solitude into strength, and peace into power. So when the world tries to pull you into noise, breathe. When someone tests your boundaries, stay calm. When emotion tempts you to overreact, pause. That pause is your superpower. That pause is where wisdom lives. Because in that pause, you're no longer controlled by emotion. You're guided by discipline. And that's the difference between living in reaction and living in mastery. So choose peace over panic. Choose control over chaos. Choose detachment over desperation. Because the man who no longer needs to control outcomes has already won. His silence speaks volumes. His restraint commands respect. His calm draws the world toward him. This is Stoic magnetism. Not a technique, but a way of being. At some point, every man reaches a crossroads. It doesn't come with a warning or a sign. It arrives quietly, often in the middle of exhaustion. It's that moment when you realize you've been giving your energy to things that never gave back. When you've explained yourself to people who never listened. When you've chased validation from those who never saw your worth. And suddenly, it hits you. Peace is not something you find. It's something you decide to protect. That moment changes everything. Because the man who guards his peace becomes unstoppable. He no longer moves out of need, but out of purpose. He no longer reacts out of emotion, but out of understanding. He no longer begs for respect. He embodies it. That's when you cross the invisible line between who you were and who you were meant to be. The world tells you to chase money, women, success, admiration. But chasing is a form of fear. It's the belief that you're incomplete, that something outside of you will make you whole. But a Stoic man knows, what you chase, you enslave yourself to. And what you cultivate within, you attract effortlessly. You see, the final evolution of a man isn't about becoming louder, stronger, or richer. It's about becoming still. Still enough to see the truth. Strong enough to walk away from what disturbs it. Wise enough to know that peace is the highest prize there is. The man who guards his peace doesn't isolate himself from life. He simply filters it. He knows what's worth fighting for and what deserves his silence. He knows when to act and when to let things unfold. His power lies not in how much he controls, but in how little he allows to control him. When you reach this stage, everything about you changes. Your pace slows, your speech softens, your energy deepens. You no longer walk into rooms to impress. You walk in to center them. You no longer need to prove your worth. You live it through your calm. The storms that used to rattle you now remind you of who you are. You've faced worse, and you're still here. That's the quiet confidence of a man who's evolved. He doesn't demand respect. He inspires it. He doesn't need to dominate others. He simply refuses to be dominated by chaos. His life becomes a reflection of everything he's mastered: discipline, restraint, patience, clarity. And because of that, he becomes magnetic. People can't explain it, but they feel it. The steadiness in your presence, the weight behind your words, the safety in your silence. You're no longer moved by noise, and that stillness makes the world move around you. That's when you realize something profound. The most dangerous man isn't the one who can fight everyone. It's the one who no longer needs to. The one whose peace cannot be provoked. The one who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. That is your final evolution. You've outgrown the boy who begged for validation. You've outgrown the man who confused passion with purpose. Now, you've become the rare kind of man the world quietly admires, not because you chase, but because you choose. You choose calm over conflict. You choose silence over reaction. You choose direction over distraction. You choose purpose over approval. And in doing so, you've reclaimed the most valuable thing a man can ever own: himself. The man who guards his peace becomes untouchable. He no longer flinches when disrespected, because his worth doesn't depend on someone else's tone. He doesn't collapse when rejected, because his value isn't up for negotiation. He doesn't drown in chaos, because he's learned how to breathe underwater. This is what mastery looks like. This is what the journey was preparing you for all along. Every heartbreak, every loss, every night you questioned your purpose, it was forging this version of you. The version that doesn't need to chase validation, because he already lives in alignment with truth. The man who reaches this stage understands that strength isn't aggression, it's composure. That love isn't attachment, it's respect. That success isn't noise, it's peace. And once you embody that, nothing can shake you. That's when life begins to align naturally. People respect your boundaries without you enforcing them. Opportunities find their way to you without desperate pursuit. Even silence begins to work in your favor, because your energy speaks louder than words ever could. You've entered a new level of existence, one built on calm certainty. You're no longer trying to earn peace, you are peace. And from that space you lead differently, you love differently, you live differently. Because you finally understand that the true goal was never dominance, it was balance. So now, stand where you are. Breathe. Feel that stillness inside your chest. That's the sound of freedom. That's what evolution feels like. You've walked through the noise and found silence. You've walked through desire and found discipline. You've walked through chaos and found control. This is the man you were always meant to become. Unshakable, untamed, and undeniably at peace. If this message spoke to something deep within you, write it down below. I reclaim my power. And when you do, you're not just writing words, you're making a commitment to your growth, to your peace, to your purpose. Subscribe to True Stoic Way, the brotherhood of men who no longer chase but attract through calm, discipline, and peace. Because the world doesn't need louder men, it needs grounded ones. And now, you are one of them.